So we've got this afternoon still to come our agency panel session. We've got Mark and John from Logic Group talking about maximising your mobile customer engagements. We've got Jonathan from Incentivated looking at what's really working. Then we've got another break at 3:30, then a session on AR, and then finally where does mobile go for here. So hopefully quite an informative and fun afternoon. Can you still hear me now? Yeah? No? Yeah, good. Okay. So onto our panel session. If we perhaps start by just having a minute for each of you to introduce yourselves, tell us a bit about yourselves, what you do, and then we'll crack on with the debate. Yeah.
So hi, good afternoon. I'm Dave Cagle. I'm the Creative Technology Director at Iris. Iris are an integrated marketing agency. We do sort of full service everything from outdoor through sort of digital, and in the last year we've seen an enormous uptake really and demand for mobile, so it's a big area for us of investment and attention. So excited to be here today, and there's quite a lot of interesting, it's a hotly debated topic I think we've got here, so there should be some good chat.
Hi everybody, my name is Leroy Figuera and I'm the Digital Creative Director at Haygarth. We're an integrated marketing agency, and a lot of our clients have been asking us pretty much this question, which is, should we be on mobile? And when we do go on mobile, how are we going to do that? It's going to be apps or web versions. So I'm actually looking forward to actually having a chat with the guys up here and also with you, because I think there's a lot to learn for everybody, and hopefully we'll see some nice, interesting opinions today.
Hi, I'm Hugh Boyle, and I'm Global Head of Digital for Ogilvy Action. Ogilvy Action is Ogilvy Group's shopper marketing and activation network. So it's in the last 3 or 4 years, you can only imagine, with the kind of fragmentation of the traditional advertising model, the space in which we work has grown dramatically. I was thinking that this session should actually be called Help, My Boss Says He Wants an App.
Hi, I'm Douglas McDonald. I'm, basically look after all the mobile at an agency called TMW. So we look after mobile for brands such as Diageo's, Guinness, Unilever, Lynx, that kind of stuff. And I look after essentially integrating mobile and connected devices into all of the stuff that we do for those brands, really. Been looking after mobile for various people for coming up for 10 years. So that's me.
Great. Thank you very much. So we're going to try and make this session interactive. So that means you need to all get your thinking caps on and think of questions you'd like to ask our esteemed panel here. And we've got 4 great experts to talk to here. So it's a good opportunity to get some free opinion. The topic of the session is looking at apps versus mobile internet. No doubt we'll probably veer off that topic at times, but just to kind of give it a theme. So I think if we perhaps start off with just looking generally at apps versus mobile internet, when as a brand would you pick to do one or the other? What are the inherent advantages, disadvantages of each? Who'd like to kick off? Yeah, go for it.
I think the first thing to bear in mind that the choice for apps versus mobile, sort of mobile web, should be way at the back end of your decision-making process. So, for example, as a digital creative director, I often get given an objective by a client, and that's where the process starts off. So they might say, look, we want to reach a certain audience with a certain objective, and we want to bring across a certain message. It's actually only towards the back end that we actually say, what is the how? What's the best way to deliver this? And then the answer is actually very easy. You choose one or you choose both, depending on how big your budget is. For me, it's always about the money. For me, I think the most important thing to point out, obviously, is that when you go app, currently you get access to the features that the smartphone provides, which you won't necessarily get in a web app, i.e. the GPS, the compass functionality, the accelerometer, all that kind of stuff that you might not get through the web. So that's something to think about.
Also, it was a flippant comment about your boss saying you need an app. I mean, 5 years ago in our industry, we used to, if we had £1 for every client that came in and said, I need a microsite, we probably wouldn't be sitting here. And now, if you had £1 for everyone that said you needed an app. So I think that there's this kind of like, just kind of automatic response to explosions in technology within the brand community that say they want it without really thinking as to the reason for that. I think also from my position, we work in Shopper, And actually, I think working in Shopper demonstrates that there's no one answer to this question, because category by category the answer is different. So if you look at the Shopper space, you look at the Tesco app, for instance, and even today in the Grocer magazine, Judith McKenna, who's the CEO of Asda, was talking about the launch of their new Android version of their app. And actually in the shopper marketing industry, the app essentially has become almost the savior of online grocers' e-commerce business. So generally, my answer would be that category by category and sector by sector, there will probably be a different answer.
Yeah, and I think that that's absolutely true, and completely agree with Hugh on the basis in terms of when you're looking at stuff like utility. So you need a place where you want to go and do your shopping. Traditionally, it's been a shop. Now it's probably an app. But actually, if you're looking at sort of more on the marketing side, you're trying to activate consumers to do stuff, then there are actually lots of things to bear in mind when doing an app that actually are putting barriers in the way of activation. And so traditionally, what has been easier for consumers to do is to use stuff like SMS to take them to very simple, what used to be called websites, mobile websites. And as we're seeing now, pretty much across most of the more sort of active demographic groups for particular brands, is that actually smartphone ownership is up to the 60, 70, 80% mark. And therefore, you can deploy some pretty amazing mobile websites as long as actually you don't need to use stuff like the accelerometer, the gyroscope, and things like that. So if you think about it, if you're doing social media and you've got posts which have URLs in them, if you're doing outdoor, where people's propensity is probably more likely to do search than it is to go to an app store, if you're doing mobile advertising where you can click people straight through to activation, and indeed TV, where people are more likely to do search than anything else, then in many ways mobile web, now that more people have got smartphones than anything else, is probably going to be the easiest, quickest, and most slick way to get the consumer's eyeballs on what you've got to say compared to apps.
I think that's a really interesting point, and mobile web should probably be one of the first things to consider, because it's probably one of the paths of least resistance. You've probably already got a website. There's probably a bunch of content that you want to redisplay on the phone. Mobile web's going to give you broad reach very quickly. It's going to be, because it's kind of a standards compliant web we're all going for, most browsers are going to be able to render something. But then I guess it comes down to quality of experience and what you're really trying to achieve. So while there's been a lot of talk of HTML5 and it's kind of the future of smartphone browsers are getting really powerful, and yeah, you can access some things like GPS, but the reality is that support is a little bit fragmented, so some phones are better than others, which often means you'll end up in a lowest common denominator situation where some of the really slick features aren't going to be appearing, and then there'll be a cost sort of debate around some of that stuff. So I think the answer is, yeah, if you've got a website and some of that, and a lot of your interactions are going to be an online thing, so is that posting or communicating, or is it searching an online catalog or something like that, mobile web feels quite good. If it's a immersive kind of brand experience you want, if it's something that's more sort of game related, you know, most games are sort of native apps. If it's something that might have to be used offline, so people are going to do a lot of stuff, they might want to grab some content in the office, play with it on the tube, or add some data and then sync it when they get home. They're the kind of times that you might need to look at an app. And I think just one more piece on the sort of web technologies. There's a kind of third way between these two debates, and that's the sort of hybrid application, or it has kind of different names, but essentially it's the process of using web technologies to produce native apps. So you can leverage some of maybe the skills that you've already got if you've got an in-house team, or you can bring something to market quite quickly using the same sort of technology you'd build your website with, but it'll still be available in the App Store. It can still access phones' native features, and it'll get you a long way to where a native app would get you, but it's cheaper to produce. You produce it once and it runs on every platform across Android, across iOS, across BlackBerry, and you know, it starts to become a middle ground, but it doesn't sort of work for everything.